Yes, I exactly remember it. It was '98. I was 20 years old, and it's the moment when I fell in love in the festivals. I was at the Siget, and I went down after some main performer went down to the, I think it was a reggae stage or world music or something. There was an African or Rasta drummer playing like drums, and only thing I heard was fire, fire, baya, baya. And I laid on it was the hill, and I laid there for like an hour. And after an hour, I understand that it's actually playing fire, fire, burning, burning. And something clicked at that moment. I looked at the stars, and something clicked. Of course, back then I didn't knew that, what clicked, but I think that was actually the moment that I understood what the festival is all about and its uniqueness, that it's not about any particular concerts or DJ sets. Of course, they are essential part of the experience, but festivals are about experience, and that is why we all love them so much. My love for dance music originated from dance arena. That's definitely. Yeah, I've been to the parties, of course, throughout my youth, but the level of involvement to the music and the dance and that feeling of all of us being together in the same vibe. For us, the dance arena is like some sort of temple of electronic music. People go there not to party, but it's like they're going to some holy place to honor what electronic music is all about. That's how most of us feel when we are there. To go back then, I would need to try to explain the life that we were living as a kids back then in '90s in Serbia and the Balkans. So it was very hard time then for the region. Wars, extreme poverty, and isolation. You couldn't travel anywhere. Growing up in that circumstances, you were really feeling like you're growing up in a prison. For us, it was a matter of life and death to get rid of Milošević regime back then and to liberate ourselves and to start to live a normal life. First year I enrolled in the university, started organizing protest. My first event was March of students of Novi Sad to Belgrade. We walked like 24 hours, 100 of us, to boost the demonstrations in Belgrade back then. And we did it, like some 20,000 people greeted us when we came. We were thinking how to boost the protest and how to basically finish the task and liberate the country. I figured out that music is one of the strongest unifying weapons, let's say, in that case, that can really gather masses, and that is how Exit was born. It's totally comparable. When the pandemic started, I remember my colleague coming to me saying, "Don't worry, Dusan, we wanted for our 20th, because we had some like Ronnie Size and some of our first headliners, we wanted to repeat some of those acts and moments from our history so that anniversary holds up on the specific moment in the history." And she said, "No, don't worry. Like we had 20 years ago, that Exit was basically sign of returning of normal life to Serbia and to Balkans, and that is actually why energy on this first Exit was so special, that created a myth about the festival. It's because people were so longing, people were so desperate and needy to have this type of experience. And when the first Exit happened international, this energy exploded, and the performers felt something they didn't feel anymore in some, Berlin, London, or wherever, in that level. That level of appreciation they got from the audience. They were like life saviors for them. Took from us and put us in a very special emotional space, all of us. It's definitely, it is a sign of normal life coming back, but it's also something very important. During the pandemic, we had many voices that said we are not getting back to normal, that there will be a new normal. There were some really bad articles about some technological companies that are making the cities of the future where humans doesn't need to interact, like you do, everything is by robots, and we don't want to live in that future, and believe you and the majority of people. So I would say that this year exit was our statement. When I say our, I mean all of the people that gathered, our statement that we don't accept future of that kind, and that even when there is pandemic, if you do the measures, very strict measures, we had very strict measures for entering the festival. I'm sorry that we had to do it, but we had to do it in order to make the event. So it's a proof that if you do these kind of measures, you can do a festival even in a such time like when there is something so bad as pandemic is. So I think together with this incredible energy that was here for the last 4 days, I would say this is the biggest takeaway of this year exit. If we are determined, there are no obstacles that can prevent us of being together and safely. Basically, I said before the event, after everything we've been through, that of us being all together again, we'll create a new dimension, not just of festival, but new dimensions of experience, that extraordinary things will happen. And it is always like that when you have so much accumulated energy that want to explode and to go out. But what happened really exceeded my wildest expectations. The energy was so dense that I felt that you can touch it. And I remember some performers saying that for first exit as well. I think that there are no words that I can say that will do justice for what happened. I can be like now when winning the Oscar, I want to thank my wife and my family, but that's really true, to bear with me during these 16 months of isolation, and to support and to keep my faith high. Basically, I'm the person who is not easy to feel restricted and to feel that you can't do something when something that you are doing is good for people. And obviously last year it was not meant to, it was pandemic, it was in its peak, there was no vaccines, and the last year it was not realistic to do a festival, but we managed, despite we managed to do a live stream. That is very important thing. It gave motivation for all of us. We did it with some of the premium electronic music headliners. Some were live on the Fortress, some were by screens. They did a special set for us. We had 500 people in the audience. That was maximum capacity back then. They were all socially distanced, and we partnered with the United Nations World Food Programme, which is the biggest humanitarian organization in the world. This project was directed towards alerting people about environment disasters. So we put the messages of environment disaster into the streams, and we call it live streams. That was something that we were planning to do for our 20th anniversary, and was very happy that we managed to do despite the pandemic. We did this in Serbia during the low tide of pandemic last year. Then the pandemic during the autumn and winter exploded worldwide. And it was really hard to keep the faith, but we did it. When vaccine came, that definitely helped. But I need to say that what happened was not a coincidence. Me personally and members of our team, it was a fight. In April, I went to see a mayor of Novi Sad, and in that moment he was not so, let's say, trustworthy that exit could happen, definitely not in the full capacity. But I spoke to him, I spoke about test studies, I spoke about scientific research, I show him the proofs that test studies did, that if you had the limited entrance, that there is no real danger of events. So we spoke how exit is important for the city, etc. And this changed his mind and encouraged him as well. And then 2 weeks after, he said, he did a statement where he said that he thinks it will be possible to organize exit. And we took this statement. In that moment, it was already end of April. It was too close, and I knew that we need to improvise in some sort. We took that statement and we said it's official. It's official. And it was. He said it. He's the mayor.
Yeah.
And then with this we started pushing for the national level, because we saw in the example of Tomorrowland it's very important to balance both local and national level. They had the permission from the national level, but they didn't have permission from local level. So it's very important to cover both. And then we were pushing for the national level, and that is much harder thing to do. And also in this crisis committee there are many doctors. Some of them are very hardliners, as the head of Europe once said, if we are up just to decision of doctors, especially epidemiologists, some of them would ban human contact decades ago because it's too risky. So that was much harder thing to do, but we met. We met with the doctors, we met with the Prime Minister, we met with everybody who is decision makers, and again, show them the test studies. And I'm thankful to our colleagues from Barcelona, Primavera, that gave us these studies. That was very helpful. Talk, and finally, mid of May, we get the decision if there is 50% of vaccinated people in Serbia by 21st of June, that it will be possible. That gave another boost, and this was now really official. So this is mid of May, but still it's conditional. Will it happen? What will happen? And you don't know if there will be a new type of virus coming. All the time it was huge uncertainty. But it was something that was inside us that had to be, born. This was similar to first exit. Back then we didn't know anything how to organize festival and what we need to do and how it will happen, but something was driving us, and when you have something to drive us, then you are mindful about obstacles. Of course, if you're not mindful, then you're crazy. You are mindful of them, but you're not focused on them. You're focused on what you want to achieve, and also have part of your mind how to get over the obstacles as well. And finally, just few days before this 21st of June, it was 3 weeks and 2 days before the exit opened its gate, we got the final permission to do it. We sent them officially safety protocol that we will implement, and we got the approval. So I would say in order to make this happen, there was a lot of fight needed. There was a lot of fight needed. Even in some moment in June, there was a sign that maybe the government will change its mind and that festivals will not be allowed. And what I said was that this energy can't be contained, and it's better to happen in safe environment on the fortress than to be on the streets and with no way to make it safe. Of course, the energy of the all 4 days is my highest moment, but what I felt when Satori played the song, its song is called Jelem Jelem, and it's voice of Esma Ređepova. She was known as Roma Queen, and Jelem Jelem is also official Roma anthem, and it's about many things, not to speak about that now, but it has that so powerful voice and so powerful emotion. Basically, it's like an essence of Balkan emotion. And the remix he did is such a masterpiece, and when I heard it first time, I felt like the energy of new generation in Balkans are healing because his father is also Serbian, so he has strong Balkan blood inside himself. So like new generation, what we are doing with Exit as well is healing these old Balkan wounds, and hopefully we'll manage to get there, that we'll finally bring eternal stability to this region. There is no more problems and no more, different nations fighting with each other, and that is one of the biggest social missions of Exit is. So all of that was there in this song, and when he played it, the emotion and the energy I felt at that moment, that would definitely be the highlight of my experience, along with so many other moments, especially during the sunrise at Dance Arena, that was super, super special. I can say from my perspective, I can't say this is universal for any government. Exit is a very big brand in Serbia. like Novak Djokovic is, and so it's very big brand, and the government give us support because the return from tourism is like multiple times. In every euro they invest in exit, the economy gets a multiple of 20, and the budget gets the multiple of 3. So that's what I'm always saying, is that funding exit is not spent but investment, because without exit there will be less money in the budget. They are not interfering with the programming or anything else. They support because of the tourism, and they only ask is to do as much as possible promotion of the city, of the country, of the festival, and that's it. To bring as much tourists as possible to the country, and that is very important. Especially was important in the early days of exit, because Serbia just went out of the Milošević time. It had very negative perception in the international, especially Western audience. And Serbian people are amazing, great people, very hospitable, and what was only thing that was needed for somebody to change its perception was to come. And that was the best way for him to experience people, to experience hospitality, to experience the country, but people in the first place. And that is the best way, instead of, I don't know, doing some PR campaigns or whatever. Basically, Exit was one of the first major events that started, firstly bringing people from the region together, and then a few years after to bring as many internationals as possible. This was very important for the change of perception about the country and the people. I remember one of the first headlines in 2001 in one UK media. It was, "Imagine happy Serbs that are smiling." Really racist, the headline. But since I looked at it from the good perspective, it's okay. We are changing the narrative, and that is good. We never complain about it. Exit did a lot in terms of promoting Novi Sad and Serbia internationally, and the journalist Tim Judah from The Economist, he said if Serbia was to invest all of its budget into PR, it wouldn't do as much as Novak and Exit did for the country. And that's probably true. It's priceless. I have an opinion on this, it was strong. Since all of this started, I was speaking to my international colleagues that we need to unite and to fight, because if you're not fighting, you are not important to the governments if they don't hear you. I think that what happened in the live music industry, and what really surprised me, actually it really surprised me in a positive way, that we saw exercise of unity that I didn't expect. Especially usually this relationship between agencies and promoters, they are not so nice to us. Yeah. Some of them. Many of them, I really appreciate the new way of some agencies that really understand that promoters are as important as artists. Now I think that is clear more than ever. But some of the agencies still have some old ways of doing things. But what happened during pandemic, it was, everybody showed solidarity, the deposits were returned, they could play around. Do they need to return deposits or not? They could play around because all of them have very strict contracts that favors the artists, not the festivals. But they were very supportive, and that really surprised me. I didn't expect that. For your question about the future, I think there is a need on the global level to do what Exit did in Serbia. And I explained you the procedure. This was not a gift from the government to us. This was not done only because Exit is super important for the country and they called us, okay, Exit is super important, let's try to do this. No, this was every day of lobbying. So 100% of my time, 10% I was organizing a festival, 90% I was opening the country, trying to open the country. What we need to do this now on global level, and what Exit gave to the industry is proof. In few days we will have the results of test study. Of course we will wait for this. I'm personally convinced it will show that very little number of people got infected. We will wait to see if it is like that. I can't give better proof of my assurance that we did everything we could to make the event safe is my own dad of 72 who danced in the morning in the dance arena among people, and he trusts his son that we make it safely. Of course, he is vaccinated, as most of our visitors. That's also important to say. 70% of our visitors are already immunized. 60% vaccines, 61 too, and 10% had COVID in the last 6 months. So 30% did tests. I think this is something that will have to happen on the global level, that we need to unite and to happen on the global level. So we lobby the global community, World Health Organization as well, and each of the national governments. And I hope that Exit gave the international music industry the proof that it can happen safely even during the pandemic. What is very unfair is that in some countries the sports is allowed and music is not, and there is like no justification for this. So the virus, when you're listening to music, then the virus like music and they go to the festivals, but sports they don't like, so they will not go there. It's stupid. So there is no justification for that. So music industry needs to organize internally ourselves better. And I really hope that experience from Exit will be more than helpful in order to open the space that even when there are circumstances like this, they will be able to organize events. And what is also important is that this will bring the level of uncertainty like it was never before. We had a lot of questions before Exit. People was asking, how are you sure that you will be able to do it this year? You told Prime Minister told last year that it will happen, but you didn't happen. What makes you sure that you will happen? And my answer was, after the pandemic, nothing is certain anymore. Nothing. We will never be able to say, when we announced in normal times the festival, that it will be 100% that it happen, because that's why force majeure exists. It can happen earthquake or something else, but the pandemic now aspect of the force majeure will be probably the biggest danger, and we will have to live with it. We will have to have insurance policies, we will have to be strong enough, and we will have to live with it and to believe the best case scenario. The Exit and the Fortress is something that goes together, and we don't see Exit as corporate brands and consumer drink and you put Exit everywhere. So Exit is unique, like Glastonbury is unique, or Roskilde or other festivals that are very unique. And for other festivals we give them their own identity, and these identities are also connected. For instance, Sea Dance in Montenegro or Sea Star in Croatia, it can happen only there. If we do something there, it will be another festival. But in that way also the local community feels it's their brand. They, for instance, Montenegrins usually say that Sea Dance is one of their biggest brands, and that is what we want to achieve. I can just share my experience. My aim when starting this was not to sell tickets and earn money. That was not how we set up. I started because we want to change society around us. First in Serbia, and then it grew. When we were organizing the first festival, this is not an advice, because this can really take you into bankruptcy, but we were not thinking, how to save costs on something. The only thing we wanted to do is to produce the best show possible. That was the only highlight then. And that was felt, and that was why we were different among other events that were happening in Serbia back then, because it shows the level of production, the level of love basically invested into the event was something that was extraordinary, and what they didn't feel on the events that were happening back then. But that's definitely not an advice. After 20 years, I can say that not to think about the budget sheet is taking you to the bankruptcy, that's for sure. But a budget sheet can't be the ruling body, the key thing that is making your decision. And that by Exit, and I can say to this now firmly, if it's just up to me, that Exit will never be sold to the investment funds or to any other corporation, and that we will do our maximum to keep Exit independent, because if the budget sheet is the ultimate boss of the festival, then the soul and everything what makes festivals can be undermined. Now when you ask me this question and I was talking, it just came to me that my advice for them would be to put a lot of love and energy into the event, and that is something that the people will feel. If you put that, people will feel that. If you are doing it just for money, then you are just one of the consumer brands, and that is not, especially new generations they can feel this. Of course, the old one as well, but especially new, they are very sensitive and they can feel things like that. And so all of you have souls, put it into the festival and let the fans feel your soul. And if that happens, they will continue and your event will grow, that's for sure.